So let me have a look at management. So we're going to look at a general picture, but again, if you challenge your vendors, there are a number of vendors in the room here. We work with a whole range of vendors, but two of them in particular is Alcatel and Transmode. They've had the vision to understand that by connecting sync performance monitoring that's external to their own platform, coupled with all of the enhanced sync display and presentation tools that they built into their products or are building into their products, that the customer can see the true end-to-end picture of sync and timing and where the bottlenecks are and where the root cause of strange problems might be. So I'll just touch on this a little bit. So you've got the OSS at the top layer, which is usually a business-wide view of what's going on, a high-level abstraction. You've then got the network management systems, which are typically tailored to that vendor's products, although many of them will have some level of third-party support. So in most of your networks, you'll have half a dozen or more major vendors in your network, each with their own management platform, typically talking northbound to some form of OSS. What we've done with SyncWatch, which many of you know about, is it's a performance monitoring tool for sync. We've enabled that to go northbound via an SNMP MIB into any NMS platform and or the OSS platform. So suddenly, sync can be made available to the whole business. And one of the things that really frustrates me personally, has done for 20 years I've been in this business, is that sync is always seen as it's forgotten about, pushed down in the corner. I don't think it cannot be allowed to happen anymore. It is becoming so fundamental that one of the opportunities I think you have if you're responsible for sync is phase. If you can get management connected because of the phase requirement, you may make your lives easier. And let me talk to you why. So let's go back to this picture. You may have management systems that look at the SSUs, the Grandmaster clocks, and that's great. It'll tell you how they're configured, may give you some GPS alarms. You'll have your wireless system, and you need to, that'll be managed by some form of management system, and there may be optical management systems, there'll be transport systems, there'll be switching systems, all managed in this sort of hierarchical way. And you need, I believe, to get all of this data up to the right level, and then a level of abstraction again. And this could be a typical picture. With your wireless manager, independent sync, and then you've got your transport vendors, your optical vendors, and maybe your sync management vendors, all bringing back some level of information to an OSS. Now, it's not always possible to do this. I know some large organizations, this is just an absolute killer. Trying to get anything into an OSS platform can be really, really difficult. Others, it can be a lot easier. My worry is when this view of the sync here and here, the end stops of the sync, are not connected, does the business see them as being valuable? Does the business see them as being important? Probably not. If the push has not been made or has not been successful, it can't be that important. It just sits there. Let's leave it in the little sync team in the corner. So essentially, like any other service level monitoring and management tool, we try and make it simple. You set a mask. Here, this green line is a mask. And if the synchronization measured every hour is good, it's below the mask, below the performance threshold that you expect at that point in the network, you just send the information back to the server, a summary that says sync was good at this hour. Every hour you might send that back, and you start to build up a history. You build up some form of trend analysis for that measurement point. And it's very interesting in the networks we've been working with for the last 8-9 years doing this. You can start to see how the network is evolving by looking at the sync performance data. Then what we do is when this line hits the mask, you get an immediate notification. So this platform over here will get an immediate notification. We can do SNMP northbound to the NMS or the OSS. And what we do is 15 minutes later, we get this fingerprint, this photograph of the event. And then as an operator, you can choose whether that is a significant event, whether it's a fingerprint you've seen before. We've had so much experience, we can sometimes say that's vendor X's product is now in holdover, or that's a Grandmaster clock, or whatever it might be. So you can begin to understand a lot about the network by looking at these fingerprints. So some of the things that operators have said they like about the ability, the SyncWatch on its own, or sync monitoring on its own, and then the integration with management platforms, is you've got the ability to launch between the GUI platforms. So if they're working on a network and they see lots of alarm events, they may want to launch and look what the external sync performance how it's changed over that period of time, so before the event and after the event. The other way around, some operators will say, I've had all of these sync events, now I want to see what the impact was in the network. So if you've got some vendors, for example, are building in rollback type views. So if they're managing a PTP wide area distribution network, and we had 20 sync probes out at the edge of the network, and we saw 5 of those probes have a sync alarm, the vision is to click on those 5 sync probes and do highlight sync view, and it will show you the PTP flows across the network, and you can roll back to see what those PTP flows were like before the event. So you can start to pinpoint, was it a particular router had congestion? Was it a particular link that went into saturation? What was it that was the cause? And this is one of the issues we've been seeing, that PTP rollouts have only been gaining speed. Now, this year, we've started to see hitting large scale, lots of volume of PTP clients in networks. Now the real network problems are beginning. Not the technology problems, I think they're solved, but now we're seeing network management, network operational issues beginning to hit. And I think it's important, if you've got a complex network, this really helps by being able to see separate views. So highlight sync E. Most networks have got sync E, PTP, and legacy sync still in them. So wouldn't it be useful to say highlight sync E and see the sync map for the sync E topology? Highlight PTP, highlight legacy, because all of these things are interworking to some degree at the moment. And some vendors are offering and beginning to deliver these types of features. Others, it's like Premier Division, First Division, and down. There are a couple of vendors who are in the Premier Division in looking at giving their customers the right sync tools, in my view. There's a few more in League Division 1. There's a few in 2 who said, yeah, this probably is something I might do at some point in time, but I've done nothing. And there's a whole pile below that who, frankly, haven't even, I think, understood the problem for their customers. So challenge the vendor to see what they can do. Let's have a quick summary. So I'm seeing a number of customers who are preparing their networks for phase support 2014-15. And they're beginning to say to us, frequency wasn't that bad over PTP. We thought it was going to be a problem, but actually it hasn't been too bad. We've had some issues, but we've solved them. But they're very, very worried about phase. So they're starting to put projects in place where they will manage the phase coming out of their existing PTP frequency network at key locations. And that may be some at the edge of the metro, and some somewhere in the core. Do some real measurement, data measurement. You're not going to be able to accurately simulate all of this in the lab. Get out there and do some phase measurement in the real network. I do believe you've got to challenge all of the vendors you have, transport, wireless vendors, challenge them as to what type of sync management features they're putting into their product or already have. I think you have to put some form of external monitoring to complement the statistics in the vendor's products if they allow you to get access to them. And I think there's probably the one last opportunity to get sync management into the operations of some of your businesses because of phase. Phase is a big step change.